What it really means when a married man chooses you. Have you ever stopped to think about what really goes through a married man's mind when he chooses you? We're not talking about coincidence, physical attraction, or momentary impulse. We are talking about a deliberate, conscious choice that can completely change the course of 3 lives. But here's the truth that no one tells you. This choice reveals much more about male psychology, about unhealed wounds, and about unconscious patterns than you might think. There is a hidden universe of motivations, repressed needs, and emotional compensations operating behind the scenes of this decision. And the question that should keep you up at night is not, why did he choose me? But what does this choice say about who he really is? And especially, what does it reveal about the place you are occupying in this dynamic? Get ready, because what you're going to discover in the next few minutes can completely deconstruct everything you believed about relationships, choices, and the true meaning behind this situation. 1. The illusion of the chosen one. When a married man chooses you, the first reaction is usually to feel special, unique, different from all the others. There's a powerful fantasy that builds around that situation, like you have something so extraordinary that it made him risk everything. But the psychological truth behind it is quite different from the fairy tale your mind wants to believe. In reality, this feeling of being chosen works as a very well-constructed emotional trap, where you become an accomplice in a narrative that benefits only one person: him. The illusion begins when you interpret this choice as validation of your worth. It's as if the fact that he risks a marriage, a family, a lifetime is the ultimate proof that you are extraordinary. Your brain creates a story where you are the heroine, the one who has finally awakened something genuine in him. But here's the problem. You weren't chosen for who you are, but rather for what you stand for at that particular moment in their life. There is a brutal difference between these two things. When we look at it from the perspective of depth psychology, we find that men in this situation do not choose based on real connection, but on the need for escape. They project onto you qualities, characteristics, and possibilities that are actually inner voids of themselves. You become a blank canvas where he paints the idealized version of what is missing in his life. And the most interesting thing is that this idealization has nothing to do with who you really are. He doesn't see you. He sees what he needs to see to justify his own choices. The feeling of being chosen also masks something much darker: emotional manipulation. When someone puts you on such a high pedestal, there is always a hidden reason. No one does this innocently. By making you feel special, unique, and irreplaceable, he ensures that you accept emotional crumbs, uncomfortable situations, and a secondary position in his life. After all, if you are that special, you should understand that he needs time. He cannot assume it publicly. He has to keep up appearances. The illusion serves as an invisible current. And there's more. This fantasy of being chosen prevents you from seeing the naked reality of the situation. While you're busy feeling special, you don't realize that you're participating in a triangle where someone will inevitably get hurt, and the chances of it being you are huge. The illusion works as emotional anesthesia, blocking your ability to see the warning signs, the contradictions, the empty promises. You prefer to believe the romanticized version because the truth hurts too much. But the greatest pain comes later, when the illusion crumbles and you realize that it was never about being chosen, but rather about serving a temporary purpose in the journey of escape from it. 2. The void you fill. Every human being carries inner emptiness, emotional holes that have formed throughout life through experiences, frustrations, and unmet needs. When a married man seeks out someone outside of marriage, it's rarely about overwhelming passion or fate. It's about finding someone who temporarily fills those empty spaces that he can't or doesn't want to deal with on his own. And you without realizing it, take on this role of emotional fulfillment. The most common void is the need for male validation. Many men spend years in a relationship where they feel invisible, unadmired, or constantly criticized. Over time, this erodes their self-image. When you show up and show admiration, enchantment, desire, it's as if an emotional tap has been turned on after years of being turned off. He's not looking for you specifically. He's looking for that feeling of being seen again as someone desirable, interesting, powerful. You are the mirror that reflects the version of him that he lost or never had. Another frequent void is the escape from responsibility. Marriages bring weight, bills, children, routine, obligations. There is a lost freedom that many men miss, even if they never admit it out loud. When he is with you, he does not need to be the provider, the father, the responsible husband. He can go back to being the carefree, spontaneous boy without charges. You represent a portal to a lighter version of his existence. It is an escape from reality disguised as romance. There is also the emotional emptiness caused by routine. After years with the same person, many relationships fall into a suffocating monotony. There are no more surprises, discoveries, that feeling of novelty that activates the neurotransmitters of pleasure. With you, everything is new. Each conversation is a discovery. Each encounter has that adrenaline of the forbidden, the unexpected. You fill the void of predictability with intense doses of dopamine. But this is not love, it is chemical addiction. There is also the existential emptiness, that midlife crisis where man looks at his own life and feels that he has lost something fundamental. Unfulfilled dreams, youth that escaped, the feeling of being trapped in a life that he chose but that now seems like a cage. You emerge as a promise of a new beginning, of a second chance, of redemption. It doesn't matter if this is real or not. It matters that momentarily he feels that he has come back to life. The problem is that internal voids are never filled from the outside in. This is a dangerous psychological illusion. When you take on the role of filler, you are entering a game that is impossible to win, because the more you fill in, the more dependent he becomes, but also the more frustrated, because deep down he knows that it is temporary, illusory. And when the filling stops working, when the novelty wears off, the emptiness comes back in full force. And then you stop being a solution to become another problem in his complicated life. If a married man chooses you, it's never just about desire. It's about the part of him that feels seen only by you. If you want to understand what this connection truly reveals about both of you, discover the Jung method. The link is pinned in the first comment. 3. The shadow he does not face. In Jungian psychology, the shadow represents everything that a person rejects, denies, or hides about himself. These are the unacceptable aspects of the personality that are buried in the unconscious because they are painful, shameful, or incompatible with the self-image that the person wants to maintain. When a married man chooses you, a large part of that choice is related to his shadow that remains unfaced. The first manifestation of this shadow is emotional cowardice. Many men in this situation don't have the courage to face the real problems of their marriage. They prefer to escape, to create a parallel reality where they do not have to deal with conflicts, difficult conversations, or the pain of recognizing that something needs to change. By choosing you, he's avoiding looking at what's really broken within him and in the main relationship. You become the perfect diversion, the ideal distraction, so you don't have to do the necessary inner work. Another common shadow is emotional immaturity disguised as romanticism. Men who have never developed a capacity for deep commitment, true intimacy, authentic vulnerability, use these situations to maintain a double life where they never really need to grow. With you, everything is intense but superficial. There is no room for routine, for real problems, for the necessary boredom of a mature relationship. It's always an emotional peak, drama, intensity. But this is not depth. It is emotional childishness disguised as passion. It also has the shadow of radical selfishness. When a man holds two people at the same time, thinking only of his own satisfaction without considering the suffering he causes, he is operating from a deeply narcissistic place. He wants to have the best of both worlds, the security, stability, and comfort of marriage, along with the excitement, novelty, and validation of the extramarital affair. It doesn't matter who gets hurt in the process. What matters is that they are satisfied. This is a shadow he will never recognize because it would completely destroy the heroic narrative he has built about himself. Systematic lying is another gigantic shadow. To keep this situation going, he has to constantly lie to you, to his wife, to himself. Each lie eats away at a piece of his integrity, but he chooses to ignore it. Over time, this person loses the ability to discern truth from fiction because he lives in such a complex web of deception that he no longer knows who he really is. You are relating to someone who has lost touch with their own essence. Finally, there is the shadow of the fear of choosing. Many men in this position are terrified of making definitive decisions because decision always implies loss. Choosing one path means renouncing another. So they get paralyzed, keeping everyone on hold, promising but never delivering, creating expectations but never delivering. This fear of choosing reveals a deep fragility, an inability to take responsibility for one's own life. And as long as he doesn't face this shadow, he will continue to keep you in an emotional limbo where nothing is ever truly resolved. 4. The secret role you play. Within the psychological dynamics of a married man seeking someone outside of the relationship, there is always a specific role being projected onto that person. It is not something conscious most of the time, but it works as an invisible script where each one has a predetermined function. And you, whether you like it or not, are playing a very specific role in this emotional theater of his. The most common role is that of the rescuer. Many men project on you the fantasy of rescue, as if you were the person who will finally get you out of that unhappy life, that lifeless marriage, that suffocating routine. He puts you in a position where you are responsible for his happiness, for the renewal of his life, for his chance to start over. It sounds romantic, but it's a heavy trap. Because when you take on this role of savior, you start to carry a weight that was never yours. And more, it creates a dynamic where he is always the victim who needs to be rescued, never the author of his own story. Another frequent role is that of the inspiring muse. You represent that energy that he lost, that vitality, that connection to something bigger. In his presence, he feels creative, alive, inspired. It seems wonderful to be that person, but the problem is that muses are idealized, not real. He's not really seeing you. He's seeing a projection of his own aesthetic and emotional needs. And when reality appears, when you show imperfections, frailties, humanity, the spell is broken. Another dangerous role is that of the emotional therapist. Many men use extramarital affairs as a substitute for therapy. They take out on you all the frustrations, dissatisfactions, anguish that they have accumulated over the years. You become the person who listens, who welcomes, who validates, who understands everything that supposedly the wife no longer understands. It sounds like intimacy, but it's unpaid emotional labor. You are performing a function that should be that of a professional, but without recognition, without healthy limits, and worse, without genuine reciprocity. Finally, there is the role of the second permanent option. You are the one who is always available when he needs it, but never a priority when it really matters. You are the comfortable plan B, the emotional safety net, the one he knows will be there waiting. This role is devastating because it puts you in an eternal position of subordination. His needs always come later, his feelings are secondary, his life is on pause while he decides what to do with his. And the worst thing is that as long as you accept to play this role, he will never have a reason to change the script. 5. The escape disguised as love. There is a brutal difference between genuine love and emotional escape. But in the heat of the moment, these two things may seem exactly the same. When a married man chooses you, it is essential to understand that most of the time it is not real love, but an unconscious escape strategy. He's running away from something, and you've become the destination of that escape. The most obvious escape is from marriage itself. Long relationships inevitably go through difficult phases, moments of crisis, periods of estrangement. Instead of facing these difficulties, dialoguing, seeking real solutions, or even making the courageous decision to break up, many men choose the most cowardly path, fleeing into the arms of someone else. You represent the place where he doesn't have to deal with the real problems. It's easier to start something new, intense and exciting than it is to do the hard work of fixing or ending with dignity what already exists. There is also the escape from accumulated responsibilities. Marriage, children, work, bills, social obligations, all of this creates a huge burden. Many men feel that they have completely lost their freedom, that they have become just a set of functions to fulfill. With you, they can be someone else, lighter, freer, without that constant burden. Each encounter is a temporary break from real life. But this is not building something new, it is simply escaping from what has been built. The escape from oneself is perhaps the most profound of all. Many men reach a point where they don't like who they have become, the choices they have made, the life they have built. There is a deep dissatisfaction with one's own identity. Instead of doing the inner work of self-knowledge, therapy, real transformation, they seek out a new version of themselves. With you, they can pretend to be someone else, create an alternative narrative where they are more interesting, more courageous, more passionate. It's a character they use when they're away from real life. The problem is that escape never solves anything. You can run as much as you want, but your inner problems travel along with you. When the man is using you as an escape strategy, sooner or later reality catches up, and then the contradictions, the unfulfilled promises, the setbacks, the crises begin. Because deep down, he knows that he is running away, not building. And you, who believed you were living a great love story, discover too late that you were just the escape route of someone who didn't have the courage to face her own life. 6. The broken mirror of self-esteem. The way a person relates to others reveals a lot about how they relate to themselves. When a married man maintains a double life, systematically lying to two people at the same time, it says a lot about the state of his self-esteem. And most importantly, it says a lot about the kind of relationship you're building with someone who has such a fragmented relationship with their own identity. Another revealing aspect is the need for constant approval. Many men in this situation are always looking for confirmation that they are desirable, interesting, relevant. Every compliment you give, every show of interest, every moment of intimacy serves as a temporary injection of self-esteem. But as it is something that comes from outside, it is never enough. He will always need more, new doses, constant validation. You become a kind of emotional provider of something that he should cultivate internally. Chronic lying also destroys self-esteem in a profound way. Every time he lies to you, to his wife, to others, he is betraying himself. Deep down, he knows that he is acting in a cowardly, dishonest, selfish way. This creates a brutal cognitive dissonance where self-image does not match actual behaviors. Over time, this person loses respect for himself, even if he never admits it out loud. And when you relate to someone who doesn't respect yourself, you're entering emotionally dangerous terrain. Finally, there is the inability to face consequences. Men with healthy self-esteem take ownership of their choices and deal with their results. When someone spends years stalling, promising, creating expectations, but never making concrete decisions, they are demonstrating fundamental cowardice. He has no internal structure to face the pain of a separation, social judgment, guilt, inevitable losses. He prefers to keep everyone in an eternal limbo, where he doesn't have to be an adult and take responsibility. And you deserve someone who has the emotional backbone to build something real, not someone who keeps you in a shadow because they don't have the courage to get out of their own. 7. The invisible emotional compensation. All human behavior has a function, even when it seems destructive or irrational. When a married man seeks someone out of the relationship, there is always a compensation mechanism operating behind the scenes. He's trying to balance something that's missing, fix something that's broken, fill something that's empty. And you, without knowing it, have become the instrument of this compensation. The most common compensation is for lack of recognition. Many men spend years feeling invisible within their own marriage. They do their job, fulfill their obligations, but rarely receive admiration, gratitude, or genuine recognition. Over time, this creates a deep wound. When you show up and show enchantment for him, when you value his qualities, when you show that he is special, you are offering exactly what was missing. But this does not build a healthy relationship. It only temporarily compensates for a lack that should be worked on in another way. Another frequent compensation is for the loss of passion. Long relationships naturally move from the phase of intense passion to something more peaceful, stable, deep. But many men fail to make this transition with maturity. They miss that adrenaline, that obsession, that uncontrollable desire of the first moments. With you, they can relive those sensations, feel that chemical intensity again. They are compensating for the absence of fire with a fire that will inevitably consume everything in its path. There is also compensation for the loss of freedom. Marriage brings commitments, routines, obligations that limit individual autonomy. Many men feel that they have lost the ability to do what they want, when they want, how they want. Each secret encounter with you represents a moment of regained freedom, a sense of being in control of one's life again. But it is an illusory freedom, because it is based on lies and betrayal, not on authentic and courageous choices. Compensation for sexual frustration is another important dimension. Many marriages go through phases where physical intimacy decreases, whether due to fatigue, routine, unresolved issues, or simply natural changes over time. Instead of talking about it, seeking help, or working together with their partner, many men simply look outside for what they are not having at home. You turn the compensation for an unsatisfactory sex life without him having to do the work of improving the actual situation. The fundamental problem with offsets is that they never solve the original issue. They are just emotional band-aids placed on deep wounds. As long as he uses you as a compensation mechanism, he will never do the real work of transforming what is wrong, and you will remain only the temporary remedy for pain that he refuses to truly cure. 8. The true price of this choice. Every choice has consequences, but these consequences are not always obvious at the time of decision. When a married man chooses you and you accept to be part of this dynamic, there is a price being silently charged to everyone involved. And usually this price only becomes clear when it has already been paid, when the damage is already done, when there is no going back. The first price is the loss of integrity, both his and yours. No matter how many justifications are created, deep down, there is an awareness that something morally questionable is happening. Every lie, every secret meeting, every empty promise eats away at a piece of the integrity of both. Over time, you'll look in the mirror and no longer recognize the person you've become. he will wonder how he got there, how he accepted crumbs, how he allowed himself to live in the shadows. This loss of self-respect is one of the highest prices anyone can pay. The second price is lost time. While you're stuck in this situation, waiting for him to make a decision, living on promises and expectations, your life is passing by. Opportunities to meet someone available, to build something real, to live a transparent love, are being wasted. Every month you spend in this emotional limbo is a month you'll never recover. And when you finally wake up to reality, you'll realize that you've left years of your life hanging by someone who never had a real intention of truly choosing you. The third price is emotional health. Living in a clandestine relationship is psychologically destructive. Constant anxiety, permanent insecurity, the feeling of not being a priority, all of this undermines your emotional stability. You start to live in constant alert mode, checking messages, waiting for signs, interpreting every gesture, every word. Develops patterns of insecure attachment that will contaminate future relationships. Psychological damage can take years to repair. The fourth price is social and relational. When you get involved with someone married, you need to lie to friends, family, close people, or else he isolates himself completely, keeping this secret that weighs more and more every day. You lose important connections, push away people who could support you, close yourself off in an ever-shrinking world where there is only you and him. And when everything falls apart, she discovers that she is alone because she has been distancing herself from everyone who really mattered. The fifth price is the ability to trust. If he's cheating on his wife, what guarantees that he won't cheat on you too? If he lies to her, what guarantees that he is not lying to you? This doubt will grow. It will corrode you inside. It will destroy any possibility of peace. And even if you get together eventually, that relationship will be born on a foundation of betrayal and lying. How to build solid trust on such fragile foundations? Finally, the most devastating price of all is finding out that you were just another one. That it wasn't as special as you were made to believe, that he didn't really choose you. He just used you to make up for voids, run away from problems, satisfy selfish needs. The pain of realizing that you were complicit in your own illusion, that you wasted time, integrity, and emotional energy on someone who never deserved it, that pain is almost impossible to describe. And when it arrives, you finally understand that the true meaning of being chosen by a married man was not about you being special, but about you accepting a place that no one with self-love should accept.